After exploring the potential learning within a learning outcome, we can now begin to plan a unit of learning. There are 5 steps involved when planning. Step number 1. We need to consider the age and stage of our students. That is, what is relevant or of interest to our students and appropriate based on the learning that has occurred up to this point. That is to say that we build on their prior learning. Step number 2. We select up to 4 learning outcomes across the 3 strands. The learning outcomes we pick are the focus for the unit, even though there will be other skills students will be using throughout the unit of learning. Step number 3. We align assessment with the learning outcomes, which we have selected for the unit of learning. The assessment is really about stepping back from the learning and finding out, how do we know our students have achieved the learning we set out to achieve? Step number 4. We choose possible activities. Again, planning with learning outcomes and the aligning of assessment is done as an MFL department, but teachers are free to decide on activities suitable for their particular class. Teacher autonomy is still in place. In addition, different languages within the Modern Foreign Languages department need to select language-specific texts. Finally, step number 5, we reflect during and after the unit of learning. Reflection here is a twofold process. Reflecting on what worked well during the unit, and also reflecting on how learning outcomes were selected and developed so as to ensure that some learning outcomes were not overlooked. There is sometimes a temptation to select learning outcomes we are becoming increasingly familiar with, but all 39 learning outcomes must be developed over the 3 years. There is a section for reflection in the learning log from your CPD day for this purpose. This learning log is also available on our website, www.jct.ie/Modern Foreign Languages. It is crucial that the assessment is directly aligned to the learning outcomes selected. The assessment should capture the learning that has taken place. If the students are able to achieve the assessment, then we can confidently say that they have achieved the learning. The learning outcomes, as you can see on your slide, inform the unit of learning. The assessment captures the learning that has taken place during that unit. We might find ourselves saying, students can. This allows us to be sure that students can demonstrate their learning. You are now looking at a recap slide to show you the questions you need to ask yourself when you are planning as an MFL department. We will give you a moment to read the 3 questions involved. You will be familiar with these questions from our CPD days, and you will also be familiar with the planning template, which you can see on the right-hand side of the screen. Again, this is available as an editable Word document on our website. At the bottom of the planning template, you will notice that there is an area dedicated to reflection. Quite simply, we ask ourselves what went well for us, and even better if. In other words, what could we try differently next time to improve the process? You can also notice that the planning template has a blue section and a cream section. The blue section is the part of the plan dedicated to planning as a modern foreign languages department. And the cream section can either be used for planning on an individual basis or for collaborative planning. Now let's plan together. Here, after going through the steps of unpacking learning outcomes, we have selected 4 learning outcomes from across the 3 strands, remembering to integrate the learning outcomes across the 3 strands. We have selected Learning Outcome 1.5 from the reading element, Learning Outcome 1.10 from the spoken production element, Learning Outcome 2.5, comparing the target language with other languages students know, and finally 3.4, learning about traditions, customs and behaviours, an element within strand 3. As you can notice, we have integrated our learning outcomes across the 3 strands and we have selected a maximum of 4. The reason we limit the number of learning outcomes is that we must ensure that the assessment is aligned to the learning. Therefore, by selecting too many learning outcomes to inform the unit of learning, there is a risk that the assessment will become unwieldy as we try to assess all of the learning that has occurred during the unit. You also notice that part of the learning outcomes are emboldened. This is to highlight the focus of the learning. Just because certain learning outcomes are in focus, or parts of the learning outcome, is not to say that other learning outcomes are not also possible or that other language skills are not also in use. However, they are not the focus during this unit of learning. Let me give you an analogy. Imagine that you are a rugby coach. You tell your team that you will be focusing on scoring a try. This is akin to selecting a learning outcome. In order for your team to score a try, they will need to run, pass the ball, work as a team, but the only focus as a coach is on scoring a try. Although the focus is on scoring a try, lots of other skills are necessary for this to happen. It is exactly the same for us in a modern foreign languages classroom. We will know that our students have achieved the learning outcomes when they can achieve the assessment. This unit of learning is also available in the handout section to the right-hand side of your screen. I'd like to remind you that after tonight's event, all materials, including this unit of learning, will be available to you on the website. We ask ourselves, what do we want our students to know, understand and to be able to do at the end of the unit? That informs our selection of learning outcomes. We then ask ourselves, how do we know that our students know? This is our assessment. Here are some suggestions of activities for this unit of learning. These are just ideas. There are many other possibilities. I will now pause so that you can have a look at these activities. Again, this is all available in the unit of learning located in the Handouts tab and will be available after tonight's webinar. The activities are simply the methods through which we get our students from where we are with our students' learning to where we would like them to go. We ask ourselves, what will we do to get them there? Here, we have suggested what an end-of-unit task might look like in the first year of modern foreign languages. The task is decided individually or collaboratively. Although the assessment is decided collaboratively, the end-of-unit task can vary depending on the students in our classroom. In other words, what we are assessing is the same for all students, but how we assess can vary. We will now pause to take some questions. If you are listening to the recording of this webinar, you will not now hear the questions. The questions asked on the night are available in a separate document, which can also be found on our website. Our key messages from tonight's webinar are: the 39 learning outcomes are developed over the 3 years of junior cycle. Collaboration is key when working with learning outcomes, as it is new to all of us. We do need to integrate learning outcomes across the 3 strands when planning a unit of learning. Learning outcomes are not designed to be taught in isolation. The assessment needs to be directly aligned to the learning outcomes selected. In other words, we hope to capture the learning. There are a number of available resources online, especially on our website, jct.ie, under the Modern Foreign Languages tab. Please keep in touch through email and follow us on Twitter @JCTMFL. Thank you so much to everyone for taking part in our webinar tonight. We hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.